Carlos works as a hospice nurse. Over the years, he has sat beside hundreds of dying patients, holding hands, bearing witness to final breath, and comforting grieving families. Lately, though, he finds himself crying without warning. He dreams of people he cared for, feels heavy and withdrawn, and dreads going to work. These weren't his personal losses, but the pain feels real. He's grieving lives that weren't his to lose. Welcome to this mini-series on understanding the language of grief, loss, and trauma. My name is Nathalie Himmelrich. I'm a somatic practitioner, psychological therapist, educator, and author, specializing in grief and trauma, and the host of the How to Deal with Grief and Trauma podcast. Grief and trauma are deeply human experiences, yet many of us struggle to describe what we are going through or to understand what others are facing. The vocabulary of loss is vast, varied, and sometimes overwhelming. In this short podcast episode series, we'll explore the different types of grief, loss, and trauma that people encounter throughout life. Each mini-episode serves both as an educational tool and a compassionate companion for anyone trying to make sense of their own experience with grief, loss, and trauma, or someone who is supporting someone else who is. These terms are more than labels. They are doorways into greater understanding, healing, and connection. Whether you are a bereaved parent, a caregiver, a therapist, or someone walking alongside a grieving friend or someone who has experienced trauma, these bite-sized episodes aim to give you language, insight, and tools. Each one includes a definition, some key considerations, an explanation of why it matters, relevant podcast episodes, and frequently asked questions that I have been asked by my clients and you, the listener of the podcast. And my answers are all grounded in both professional and lived experience. So let's begin. Vicarious grief is the emotional response someone experiences when exposed to another person's loss. Unlike personal grief, this grief is felt like secondhand, often by professionals, caregivers, or individuals who empathize deeply with others' suffering. Vicarious grief is common among healthcare workers, therapists, clergy, first responders, and even the general public when faced with news of widespread tragedy. It can feel like your own loss because the nervous system doesn't always differentiate between witnessing grief and experiencing it firsthand. Unacknowledged vicarious grief can lead to burnout, emotional exhaustion, numbness, or even resentment. Recognizing it for what it is allows for proper care, boundaries, and renewal. It's also a sign of deep empathy and not weakness. In the How to Deal with Grief and Trauma podcast, you'll find multiple episodes that I have conversations with colleagues, therapists, healthcare worker, as well as hospice nurse Juli. So go check out the podcast episode overview for more details. So is vicarious grief the same as compassion fatigue? They overlap, so vicarious grief focuses on the emotional pain of others' losses, while compassion fatigue also includes exhaustion from chronic caregiving. So can I grieve someone I've never met? Absolutely, because deep empathy can create real grief even without a personal relationship. So how can I tell if I'm experiencing this? If you feel emotionally affected by others' losses, weepy, drained, anxious, or overwhelmed, you may be carrying vicarious grief. So what helps relieve vicarious grief is debriefing, emotional processing, peer support, boundaries, rest, and creative rituals. So does this mean I'm too sensitive? No, it means you care. But caring requires internal resources and renewal, so it's important to take a lot of self-care in those kind of workforces. Should I step away from my work? Not necessarily, but taking breaks, supervision, and personal support are key. How do I build resilience to vicarious grief? It's by learning your emotional limits and by building co-regulating practices and have regular spaces for emotional discharge. For those interested, I can highly recommend polyvagal theory as a way to help regulate the nervous system. Is this a new phenomenon? No, it has always existed, but we're naming it here more and now thanks to trauma-informed awareness. In the next episode, I'll be speaking about invisible grief. Stay tuned. I hope this episode has helped you feel more grounded in the language of loss, grief, or trauma, and maybe even offered you some clarity, validation, or insight into your own experience or the experience of someone you care about. Grief and trauma are deeply personal, yet universal. When we can name what we're feeling, we take one powerful step closer to healing and the integration of our experience back into our life. If this series resonates with you, I invite you to keep exploring. You'll find more resources, courses, and ways to work with me at nathaliehimmelrich.com. And of course, you're always welcome to revisit any of the episodes whenever you need a gentle reminder that you're not alone. Until next time, take good care of your heart.